Hello again. Welcome back to my bedroom. um, I I was thinking what I might do. I hear my cat. Do you hear her? That's Jezzy Baba. Um, you might hear her start like scratching at the door because the door is closed. So she might decide she wants to get in. So my apologies if I have to stop the video in order to get her, or if you see me disappear for a minute even while I'm talking. I don't know. We'll see. It won't be a very long video, not like the first one. Um, but I did want to do a quick video to explain why I write novellas. Because I did start out writing full length novels. I've also written screenplays, I write poetry. I write a lot of different things. I guess I should really start with just, some basic background information about myself anyway. I remember in the last vlog, I mentioned like the pen name that I use, for example, that I would explain that. So that's what this one is kind of about. I'm just going to kind of go over some of the basic information, some background stuff about me so you get to know me a little bit better, and then me explain the novella. Why the novella? So first, to let you know, my name is actually Michelle. And I write under the name Mimi because it's a nickname. Mimi is a nickname for Michelle. And I also write under Michelle as a pen name, like my poetry and nonfiction. But I spell it the way that my husband, yes, I am married, my husband says it, Michelle. And so it has the accent and everything, and that's how I spell it. Milan actually came from a genealogy search where I found out our last name was actually Claudio de Milan. And I have a very mixed background. Like on my mom's side, it's German and English and Irish. And on my dad's side, it's African and Puerto Rican, Spanish, Italian. There's a lot of, so I'm like my own little melting pot. And I wanted to, they dropped that name when they moved, when they immigrated. They dropped that name, and I wanted to kind of resurrect it. And I thought Milan went well with Mimi, and so that's where I got Mimi Milan. I remember once upon a time somebody commenting, they thought that I was like trying to copy another well-known romance writer by using her surname. And I'm like, no, actually mine is tied to my family name. So I figured I would, say where I'm from. I am originally from up north, but I came down to the south when I was a small child, and I've lived here for over 3 decades. Yes, I know some people are like, how old are you? I'm older than I look. I waited until I was 30 to even have children, so that should tell you something. But I am older than I look, and not trying to say that I'm some young, like, 16-year-old. I know I don't look like that, but I do still get carded. Like, every time I want to buy a bottle of wine or something, they're like, do you have your ID? And I'm like, yes, I do. If I were to take the pashmina off, which is what this is, people have asked about that as well. This is a pashmina. No, I do not wear it for religious reasons, even though some people do. But if I were to take it off, you would see gray hairs. In fact, my daughter was pointing that out the other day. The cat actually jumped on my head while I was laying down, I was in bed, and the cat came rushing through because every now and then she has this like bizarre spurt of energy, and she was like, run, 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 jump, like leaping like a horse or something. She's like up onto the bed and right onto my head. Like she dug into my head as she like bounced off it, and I was like, screaming, and I'm like holding my head. I'm like, that hurt. Let me go wash my head and everything else. And I had a scratch on I did have a scratch on my head. And my daughter was looking at it. She goes, you have a lot of white hair. I'm like, thanks. I don't color my hair though. There's reasons. If anybody else wants to, that's fine. But I believe in being as natural as I possibly can. And being natural for me is not coloring my hair. I've tried it before anyway, and it made me feel funny. Like my head felt like it was stinging, like it was on fire. I didn't like the way it felt. I also felt kind of woozy from the chemicals on my head, and so I decided hair coloring is not for me. And then I was watching a YouTube video one day, and this woman had it's actually, the company is called Rapunzel, WRAPUNZAL. And that Rapunzel had these beautiful scarves, and she called it a pashmina. And so I started researching and finding out everything that I could, and I was like, well, this is a good way for me to be able to, wrap my head and not have all of the gray and white showing, and not have to color my hair either. Not that there's anything wrong with gray hair, but I'm in that strange, in-between phase. I think a head full of gray would be gorgeous. And I think that's why some younger women nowadays, they dye their hair silver and gray, and because it does look really intriguing. But I'm not at that stage yet. I'm in between, where I have the dark hair with sporadic whites everywhere. And it just looks like I'm just now coming into my wisdom. I'll until I'm fully wise, I'll just cover my head. And I like the scarves. I think they're pretty, and I like the way that you can do different things with them. You can put them in bows. And if you look at old videos, I like watching the Turner Classic Movies and stuff like that. I don't have cable TV anymore, so I can't. What I do now is I just download or I buy the videos, like Annie Get Your Gun, and a lot of Bette Davis movies, and James Cagney and stuff like that. I like a lot of those movies, and you'll see that the women in the movies, that was a style, like in the 40s and stuff. They would wear head wraps and fedoras and what have you, and I was like, oh, I really like that. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start wearing this pashmina, these scarves, and so that's why. That's the reason. It's not for religious purposes, even though I do know some people wrap their heads for that reason. It's just because, for me, I like the way that it looks, and it's a way to cover the gray. So that's why I wrap my head. But so there's something else that you know about me. So now you know I originated from the North. I come from a very mixed background, multiracial, multicultural. I grew up in the South, and I wrap my head because I'm coming into my grays. so there's a little something more about me. And now the reason for the novella. So why do I write novellas instead of full-length novels like I started out? And the main reason, was because my sister, she lives in New York. She still lives up north. She lives in Long Island, to be exact. And her husband, he is a union guy, and he, travels on the train and stuff. And my sister, she has worked in the city, and she's worked in Long Island, all kinds of places. And she had a copy of my book, and her coworker, very much into reading, was like, what is this? And she goes, well, my sister's an author. And she says, really? Oh, well, let me read the book. And she just takes it. And Emily's like, okay. That's my sister, Em. She's like, okay, sure, you can borrow it, And the woman, she was at the time very pregnant with twins. And she was able to read the book, boom, in a day, because it was a novella. And at that time, the novella had been written because I was part of a MAP, which is a multi-author project. That means that there were several of us authors, and I was writing to specific guidelines. They were saying that it's only going to be between, 25 and 40,000 words, and the characters have to be like this, and it's going to be set in this environment, and the books have to be connected in this way. And so, and because of that, I wrote the novella. And then it turns out that after writing the novella, I was able to produce it rather quickly. I was able to write it within a month and still do things like spend time with my children, which is important, and have the day job which I no longer have anymore. I'm more of a contract employee through the university doing their social media, but it doesn't really pay anything. There's no benefits or anything like that because they don't have me hired on as a full-time social media manager. It's just a part-time per campaign kind of position. And so I was like, okay, well, um, I can write these novellas quickly within a month's time and still do all these other things. And more importantly, the reader really enjoyed it. She liked the fact, like, she was able to get on the subway in the morning and she could read it on her ride in and during lunch and on the ride home, and then go to bed at night and be done with it. Like, read a little bit at night, the very end, the epilogue or whatever, and boom, the story's done. And for someone afterwards, after when she had the twins, this was a really great way for her to read a book, not lose interest, because those big books for like working parents, parents with small children, who have full-time jobs, have a lot of commitments, or trying to do the church activities, like all these different things, you know, the social networking, and, you know, they're trying to manage so much. To be able to say, I read a book and I did it quickly in a day or two. Like, I was able to read X amount of books this week because they were novella length. It's a real accomplishment. It feels like you've really done something. And audiobooks are good. They're great, actually. But they work a different part of your mind than reading does. And for people who are aware of things like Alzheimer's and just keeping their mind sharp, they want to be able to not just be entertained with an audiobook, but they want to keep their mind sharp by reading. Reading a novella is very beneficial. They can still read a story and do all the other things and finish that book and feel accomplished. And that, to me, is a great feeling. I like the idea of helping a reader feel empowered. Like, they not only got their entertainment, but they were able to accomplish something reading the book. And I kind of felt, I was, inspired by that. And so when my sister told me, she was like, oh yeah, she really liked reading it because it was short. She could finish it fast. And I was like, I need to write more of that. And it keeps the reader's attention too. That's another reason that I enjoy writing novellas, because I can tell a full story. It's still a full story. They meet, they have this conflict, they fall in love, and they have a resolution, an ending. But I don't have to drag it all out. I don't have to tell the big problem. I don't have to solve the big problem, because I've introduced a couple of small characters and they can take up the next book where they have little problems that contribute to the big problem as well. And it can just kind of continue on, so that each couple is getting a full story, but at the same time, the big problem that is looming overhead is not totally solved, so that can be told later on. It's not a big deal. But this immediate satisfaction can be met. And what's the love story? Here is the love story. And they get to live happily ever after. And now I get to look forward to these new characters as they continue to solve the big problem and tell their little happily ever after. So it worked to be able to do more than one thing at once. The novella is a great vehicle that can serve many needs. Whereas somebody writes a big book like 500 plus pages, and I've seen even authors who say, I just don't have time to read anymore. And that's a bad position to be in if you're an author. I don't ever want to be in that position. That's why I gravitate towards authors who write novellas or who write short books. One of my favorite authors is Mary Farmer. She'll write a full-length novel. I've read full-length novels from her, but I've also read novellas, and I prefer her novellas. I love her stories. I love her novellas. I will read a full-length book by, say, someone like Deborah Blake or Beverly Jenkins, a couple of other of my favorite authors. But it's easier for me to read a novella from Mary Farmer because it's fast. It's, I can start it and finish it within a day or two. Whereas the other books, I have to hope that I can find time. And I hate to say it, this hasn't happened to Beverly Jenkins or Deborah Blake. I will make the time. But like some authors out there who have these really big, thick novels, it's not that your writing isn't good. It's just that I'm a mom. I have a child in a wheelchair, and that can take up a lot of, mental and physical time. I'm kind of exhausted by the end of the day. I don't want to read a book. I want to go to sleep, And so this way I can read a novella and boom, I can finish it like that. Whereas the other books, life will just maybe get in the way and it becomes a DNF, a do not finish or did not finish. Because not that the story wasn't any good, it's just that I didn't have the time to devote to reading this book. And I don't want that to happen to my stories. I want readers to be able to get in there and get done. And that's something anyway, like I said in the first vlog, I was an MFA student. I have my MFA, and one of the books that I have practically committed to memory is Shrunken White's Elements of Style. And one of the things that's really pushed in that book is the idea of brevity. And so one of the things that I'm trying to always do in my stories is to write it short so that I'm able to, entertain the reader and yet at the same time help them feel like they've accomplished something by finishing the entire story. So that's the main reason that I write the novella. It's not that I can't write the novel. It's not that I don't like the novel. It's just that I like the novella more. And I feel like it can better serve the reader, or at least my readers. Some readers, they prefer those big fat books. And I have some of those myself. I have a bookcase in every single room. I'm trying to create my own library one day to, rival that of Belle from Beauty and the Beast. But at this point in time, I'm writing the novella to try to appease my readers who want to be able to get in and get out of the story quickly. And so that's why I write the novella. But anyway, I promised I wouldn't make this a long video like the first time, and I'm at 18 minutes, so I'm like, yay, about half the time. What I'll do next time is actually talk about writing the novella for aspiring authors, writers who want to become published. Maybe the novella is a form that they want to try to write. And I guess what I can do is maybe show an outline and like beats, like the best way to write a novella, how to tell the whole story in only so many words. And I guess maybe I can do that in a video. If you have any questions, though, or comments, like leave a comment in the comment section, or you can do like some readers and you can just email me or, follow me on wherever. It says on the bottom of every website page that I have, it says where you can follow, and some like to message on Facebook or Twitter or whatever. I try to always follow back. So if you're trying to build your audience, if you're a writer trying to find readers as well, then I'll do what I can to help you out. I'm not any big name myself, but I think that it's really great if we all, try to rise together. So I will do what I can to help wherever I can. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess we'll do that or talk about something else, whatever it is that you're interested in the next video. So I guess I'll see you in about a week. All right. Well, I hope everybody takes care. All right. Bye.